Welcome to What's Your Next Podcast.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Jennifer Iacopelli. I am an author of young adult and new adult romances. I tend to write in the world of sports just because that's my first love before even reading. My first novel was called Game Set Match, and that came out in 2013. And now here we are in 2026, and it's being updated and re released, which I'm so excited about. I also wrote the novels Break the Fall and Finding Her Edge, which are YA Olympic
Yeah.
set romance. Some of you might have watched Finding Her Edge on Netflix this year, which was really exciting. And Game Set Match has a sequel coming out in a couple weeks called Wild Card, and I'm so excited for
So we
people
got
to
to
see
talk
that.
about your journey because obviously I didn't realize this was your debut, which I'm showing to the world.
It
It's
was.
beautiful. Just I want to show her and show the camera.
Thanks. Look at
All
those
over.
edges and that illustration.
Right.
I just remember when they first showed me the concept, and I was like, beautiful. And then a couple months later, they were like, and the edges.
Oh my gosh. So let's talk about your journey because you started in 2013 before the gold rush of BookTok, before the 2016
Yeah.
era.
I want to say I don't even think TikTok was a
No,
thing
it did
yet.
not
Like,
exist.
I
I
don't
don't think
think the app existed.
Instagram
Yeah,
just
it's
basically barely just
the
started.
very beginning of Instagram. There were people who were just not on it, like, out of principle
Or we
still.
didn't
They were like, "I'm
have
not
it
doing this."
because it
Like,
was an iPhone app, because I didn't get Instagram until it became Android.
yes, you could only get it in the App Store. I genuinely forgot about that till just now. My
Yeah.
brain, like, reset. But yeah, so it was the very beginning. And book bloggers ruled the book space at the time. If you It was blog tours, like, that was the big thing. It's a completely different world now.
Yeah. So talk to us, like, what was the process in terms of writing? What did it look like? How did it evolve in the past, like, 13 years? Because a lot of has evolved, like,
Yeah.
even like bringing back your old debut and actually put it into like new, like update it into sensibilities of the
Yeah, for sure.
2020s, which things have changed.
Yes. Things have changed. I will say one thing that I felt pretty good about when I went back to write was when I was like, okay, is there something that, like, doesn't hold up? Did I do something baby writer me, even baby me, as far as I was in my 20s? Now I'm almost 40. Like, I have not, obviously, I have very different views about the world. And obviously, like you said, the world has changed. But I went back and I was like, oh, it's fine. What it needed a little bit of polish, because I like to think, and I think I'm right in saying this, I'm a better writer
Mhm.
now than I was 13 years ago. And actually, the first draft of that book I wrote in
Oh
late
my God.
2011. So we're talking a 15 years of writing experience. So you would hope you're
Yeah.
better after 15 years at anything. But yeah, when I first wrote it, I was unemployed. I was a baby, and right after the 2020, not 2020, excuse me,
Isn't it?
one of those years that you just like to say. But the
Yeah.
2008 financial crisis, I lost my job. It took a minute. It took a couple of years for it to catch up in the public sector because I'm a high school librarian, so I work for a public school. But the private sector kind of felt it, and then it sort of shifted into our realm. I lost my job. The school district basically had no money to pay me, and they were like, "Well, off you go." And I was like, "This is it. I have failed as a human being. My life is over." As you want to do when you're in your 20s and something bad is it's over. And I said, okay, well, I'm unemployed. There were literally no jobs. It wasn't even, okay, like, you can apply and try to find something else. There wasn't even anything listed within the realm of my experience. And I was very lucky. I still lived at home with my parents. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I wrote a book because I'd always wanted to write a book. And I was like, I'm going to try to look at this catastrophic thing that feels like the end of the world as an opportunity instead of as the worst thing ever. And that became Game Set Match. I initially wrote it as sort of like a new adult thing, kind of as a baby writer, not really understanding genres and where things get shelved on bookshelves. And so it was at the time, 2011, 2012, no, new adult was not a thing. Just as it started to come out, it sold in like mid 2012. My editors at a very small digital only publisher, which is also a thing that doesn't really
Yes.
exist anymore. I think one of the few that are still hanging on
Yeah.
is Entangled. And
Oh, they
Entangled has
actually
become
published.
Red Tower. They basically own publishing now, but they're the only one that really survived that era. There
Yeah.
was a ton of them. Everyone thought, okay, ebooks, therefore e-only publishing, and it didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't really work. And so I published with them, and they were like, we need you to age this down a little because we don't really understand the age group that this fits in. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I brought the ages down a little. I took out any sort of spice that was in it because it's YA, and YA, while can have sex, does not have spice. And I was like, okay, and that is one thing that has not changed or shouldn't have changed. I don't know. We
Yeah.
can get into that conversation. But yeah, so they came out to very little fanfare, almost none. And it was a struggle pretty much ever since then, sort of holding on to publishing by my fingertips for a decade and a half. My second book came out with them. It was called Losing at Love at the time. It is Wild Card now. And the publisher immediately closed. I think a week after the book came out. It was like, well, bye, nice being here. And then I didn't write for a long time because I was like, I am traumatized. Like I kept getting traumatized. Poor baby in my 20s me was like, okay, you've lost your job, you've lost your publisher. In the interim, I did find a job. So, but yeah, I was like, okay, I don't really have a story in me after this. And then I did, because everything that sort of went down with USA Gymnastics at the time, I'm a huge gymnastics fan, brought me back to writing because I was so incredibly angry about what went on with those incredible young athletes that I sat down and I needed to sort of expel it from my body. And so I wrote a story, which ended up being called Break the Fall, about an Olympic gymnast who lived in a world where one adult was told this and did the right thing. Just one, which we did not have here in the real world until much, much later, until about 30 years later. So I was like, I'm going to try to, for a second, to live in a dream world where this grown-up was told and the grown-up chose to do the right thing, despite the effects it could have on their career. And that became Break the Fall. That sold in 2018 because we had all thoughts of it coming out in the 2020
Oh my
Olympics.
gosh. Yes. The Olympics have never happened.
And then they got the Olympics that, well, they did happen just a whole year later. It was just, for a minute, I really thought my career was cursed. Like, it was like, it's just not going to happen. It's okay. Like, it's great that you wrote books and it's great that you got published, and just take that for what it is and go forward. And so I sold Finding Her Edge actually before Break the Fall came out, because none of us, including my editors at Penguin Random House, foresaw that happening. They figured, okay, a Summer Olympics book, let's do a Winter Olympics book. And that book became Finding Her Edge, which was supposed to come out in February 2022, and it did. Nobody read it because nobody read Break the Fall, because the Olympics didn't happen and we didn't have any like promotional push around it. And particularly with contemporary sports fiction, publishing, and as I'll get to, entertainment in general, likes to surround it with things happening in the real world. So when the Olympics didn't happen, it was like Break the Fall was like, it just didn't get a push. And then Finding Her Edge came out, and while the Winter Olympics were happening, there wasn't a readership for the publisher to really be like, okay, we can activate these people. And so it did not really do well at all. And when I say it was my least successful book, that was not a difficult measure to be under, and yet it managed it. Yeah, it was while my publishing career had wonderful moments, it kind of felt like I was going on a downward trajectory for a decade and change. And I was just, like I said before, holding on, trying to get published, trying to stay in the game. Wrote under a pen name for a minute, Jennifer Hennessy, which is linked on my website if anyone wants to read those. They're adult romances. Thinking like, okay, I'll pivot. That's what they tell you to do. Pivot if something's not working. And then we got a call. We got a call from a man named Jeff Norton, who is our executive producer and showrunner for Finding Her Edge. And he said he had been trying for 2 years, from even before the book came out, to get a green light for a TV show, because he fell in love with the book, even if no one else had read it. And he did. And Netflix said yes. And that's how you can now watch Finding Her Edge season 1 and the upcoming season 2 on Netflix. And when that happened, everything just sort of coalesced. Everything came together in a way that I had been hoping it would for almost 15 years at that point. And because of that, I had these books kind of hanging out there. When the publisher closed, my original publisher closed, I just took Game Set Match and its original sequel and just re-uploaded them onto Amazon, because people liked them. Just a lot of people didn't know they existed. So I was like, well, they have really good reviews. People it really seemed to resonate with everybody. So I'm just going to put them out there. And if people download them, great. And for a little while, I would sell like a few hundred copies a year, usually on Kindle Unlimited. And it would fund like a sweet treat for me, or like a dinner out or something like that. But it was like a nice little, somebody read the book, usually around tennis tournament. It would be like, oh, Wimbledon's on. Look, they're all downloading this book. And so, yeah, when the Netflix thing happened, we got a call, my agent and I got a call from Alice German, Little Brown, they were starting a new adult imprint called Requited, where I am now. And they said, we really think these 2 books that Jen wrote in 2013 would be a great fit for a new adult imprint. And I was like, funny you should say that. The books used to be new adult, and I had to age them down for publishing at the time. And I remember my agent calling me and we were talking about this, and I was getting so excited. And I'm usually very level-headed. Like, I am very business-minded, especially when we're on phone calls like that. And she's, what do I hear in your voice? And I'm like, I'm so excited. I really want to do this, because I got to bring them back to what they were originally. And so, yeah, we've been with them. We worked really hard over the last year while my life exploded in other wonderful ways with Finding Her Edge, to get these books ready to go to come out this year. Yeah, Game Set Match came out earlier in February, and Wildcard is going to be set to be re-released.
Well, I was telling you, I was like, I really love this ensemble. First of all, tennis is having its moment. I'm publishing.
Yes,
And
yeah,
there's I
who
knew you're
knew?
the first of a few, but there was someone asked me for tennis recommendation, and I gave them like a 5 of them, and I was like, here's the specific. And there's Meg Jones, there's yours, there's Edward Schmit, there's 30,
Yes,
which you'll recommend.
yes,
And it's
yeah.
having its moment. So it's
But for years, there was nothing. It was like it was my books, and then like a sprinkling of others, but very rarely romance. A lot of like thrillery stuff, a little bit like there was a cozy mystery, I think, for a little while that was kind of popular, but very rarely romance. And then all of a sudden, people have started to hop on the sports romance train, the drum I've been banging for 15 years. But welcome everybody. I'm so glad you've arrived. And I think they were like, oh, there's infinite number of sports. We can do all of these, not just hockey.
Yeah.
We can get everything under the sun into this genre. And I'm like, yeah, it all goes. So I love Meg Jones's books. I'm so excited for Tom Vellner, his just came out, and then Edward Schmit's later in the year. And yeah, it's been really fun to watch this sort of resurgence into the subgenre.
And so what I love about your book is an ensemble. It's not just like one story. There's multiple stories that follow through. Like it's essentially and then now thinking about it when you wrote it, think about the serialized Gossip Girl, the A-list, like they were just basically an ongoing story, the Sweet Valley Highs of our time. They were a serialized story.
Yes. And that's what I grew up reading. That's what I consumed as a kid, even like down to Babysitter's Club, where you followed the same 5 girls for 100 something books.
It's just like the serial. And so it just comes to this like idea where I was like, oh, I got this book. I read Game Set Match. And then I'm like, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a different couple. It's just going to be. And then I realized I'm like, no, it's the same people. No, it's like
everybody,
it's like
because like their story continues. Yes, it's like a fun soap opera that you get to sink your teeth into, and you get like, I will say, I didn't completely buck the romance novel genre components. There is a full romance arc in book 1, and then there's another full romance arc in book 2. So you do get this relationship is like a happily for now at this point. We do pick up with people in the following book, though. So you get a little bit of extra angst, a little bit of drama, a little bit of extra stuff, but you are following one main couple through each book for sure.
So Game Set Match, it starts with training for the French Open. So they're in the Outer Banks, and we meet all the different characters, and we have an overarching relationship of a one-night stand that are coming back.
Wrong.
Here's the second chance.
Well, gone right and then gone wrong.
Yeah. Yes. And then Wildcard is in Wimbledon. So we see what happens after the French Open to actually the Wimbledon.
The tennis calendar is very convenient in that it provides me a beautiful little outline for my books where I can be like, okay, like the one night stand happens at the Australian Open, and then a couple months later, we all have to go to Paris and be together. It's almost like a natural forced proximity. Yes. Even if I hadn't forced them all into the same training center, they still would have been for almost the same way. Not that it's really a comp other than I love them, but almost the same way Heated Rivalry, because it takes place over such a long stretch of time. But because they are in the same profession, they keep having to see each other, and it's a natural forced proximity. So sports romance tends to do that.
Yeah, you just need to know the season. And I think yours is set in the summer season. So it's like perfect summer books to read. You're just in the place of training. It's just like warm weather. So these are perfect beach reads to do.
Yes. They're a good sand with a nice little drink next to you while you do it. Read,
so
for
the
sure.
next one should be US Open if we follow the character.
If everyone likes them and everyone reads them, crossing our fingers. I would love to write the US Open because I'm from New York. So
Yeah.
I growing up, the US Open was my thing. I was like, I'm a little bit older than you, I think. I love
No,
Jennifer
I'm older than
Capriati.
you.
I'm an elder millennial.
I am
No, you're
44.
not. No
I'm
way.
44.
Oh, okay. I'm 41, but we're close in age. So you get it though. Then you really get it.
Yeah,
So like it is, you look like have a baby
I
face.
do.
Look at you. You do not look
I
like
do. People assume, and I'm like, no,
um
I'm probably older than I look. But yes, I live in New York.
you
I
do.
lived in New York for 14 years. I was very familiar with US Open.
Oh,
Like, just it's an outing that you
yeah.
do go to Queens. You go.
It's like this citywide event. And now, especially, they've done a great job. Like when I was growing up, it was a little bit less, but I grew up in Queens, so I was kind of right there. But now the city, it's like the tennis is in town, the circus is in
Yes.
town, basically. So I would love to write a US Open set one. So hopefully, crossing our fingers, maybe that'll
Yes.
happen.
We'll sell some books. That's the whole point.
Yes, everyone go read so I can write
Yes.
the book of my
All right,
dreams.
we're gonna talk about Finding Her Edge. Of like your involvement with the Netflix
Yes.
series, because I feel like you are actually much more involved than like other authors who have sold the rights and the series and stuff. Talk to us about the process of watching your book baby actually into a TV series,
Yeah.
which is even longer because there's new storylines that they probably added on
Yeah.
that you have to forget. There's a writer's
100%.
room there.
Yes, with incredible writers. People I was like
Yeah,
intimidated to speak to when I first met them. Our lead writer is Shelley Scarrow, which again, now that I know that we are of an age, she wrote the very famous banned episode of Degrassi.
really.
So because and now Shelley's my friend and I love her, but when I first met her, I was like, you're a legend. That's over. So I was so intimidated. And then we have Jackie Papel, who's one of our directors, who's incredible. And she's such a great writer. And then Sabrina Sharif, who wrote on So I Turned Pretty. Like it's a room where I trust that they are going to get this right. And then obviously Jeff, who had our initial vision and our executive producer and showrunner, he is incredibly talented. I think it's funny because I think everyone thinks I was super, super involved in the production. But I think that's because they were so kind as to keep me informed and keep me involved because contractually they didn't do any of it. It was like, here's the rights. Good luck. I hope you make a TV show. You're probably not going to be able to because it's really hard to get that done. And then they did. And it was like, oh, okay, great. But still, they did not have to bring me in. But it was great. They got me, I was in the writer's room to have a conversation. Like you said, the world had to be fleshed out quite a bit because it takes place from the first person point of view of a 16-year-old girl who has very specific things going on in her life and therefore is not noticing a lot of what's going on around her and not making mention of it in the narrative. That's just the nature of the story. And so I got to sit with the writer's room. I got to go to set a bunch of times. I was in touch with the actors most of the time when they got cast. I was the cheeky little DM. I'm playing. It's so nice to meet you. Is there anything? And they're just the loveliest. They're all Canadian. So they're the loveliest people in the world, as we've seen. Like Canadian TV
Yes.
is the thing. And I remember early on in the production, like the fear was always like, we don't want it to look Canadian. And this is coming from the Canadians. They were like, the note we're going to get is don't let it look Canadian. Now everyone is like Canadian TV or nothing. And so I'm like, look at the evolution in 1 year based on the content that's being put out of this amazing country. And so, yeah, I think people were like, oh, she was like super involved. And meanwhile, I was probably on the outside looking in the same way most authors are. But because I worked with such an incredible team of people, it really did not feel that way. Every time there was a change, I would get a call like, hey, Jen, we're changing it. We're going in this direction. And after a while, it was like, well, of course you have to, because TV is a very different medium than a book. I can spend 20 pages in Adriana Russo's head. You get 3 seconds on the camera to communicate the thing that I spent 20 pages writing it about. So it has to be different. And like you spoke about before, and one of my favorite ways of storytelling is ensemble. And Finding Her Edge is very traditional, like YA storytelling in that it's first person and it's from one point of view. And they wanted to be able to have different entry points for the show. So they wanted a parental entry point where there's an adult storyline. They wanted a slightly younger teen. And so her little sister's plot line is a little bit more fleshed out. And so basically, not to be cheesy about it, but like it's fun family viewing. Everyone has their little entry point into this show. And while it is distinctly teen TV, I think it's teen TV in old school way, not even in the WB kind of way. But if you go back and watch, I mean, they're the WB style romance for sure. But if you go back and watch like the old school
Yes.
90210, which was like the show that everyone was like, oh my God, I can't believe the stuff that's happening on this show. If you go back and watch it now, wildly innocent, sweet, moral of the story at the end of the episode, like, but it was a huge hit and it really fit the times. I feel like there's a sort of resurgence back to that
Yeah.
form of storytelling where you've got a group of friends and you've got a bunch of people with lots of different plot lines and everyone's dating the wrong person and then like they date the right person for 3 seconds and then they break up again because that's where the drama is. And I've loved watching that evolution for my own
Yeah.
world that I built. And now I'm going to love watching it in season 2, which is crazy.
Oh my, oh my gosh. I'm so excited for season 2. I'm excited. Like, I'm excited for the projects. And sometimes it's the resilience of it's not a linear process. I've done 500 of these interviews. Like, at this point, I've interviewed pretty much everyone.
Yes.
And I can tell you for sure that no one has a linear. You wrote the first book, you won an auction, and then you have the wonderful career that you're making thousands of dollars. It doesn't work that way. It is
Yes,
so
it doesn't work out.
backwards.
Everyone's careers do this. Everyone's. Even the people who on the outside looking in look like, oh, they made it 10 years ago. They struggled
Yeah.
to sell their last book. And they're never going to let you see that part because why would you? You don't want to show people the struggle, even though that's the real story of it. But it's no one's journey is the same. People ask, oh, well, how do you get published? I'm like, well, ask 5 different authors. You're going to get 5 completely different stories because it's unique to everyone. And it's hard. It's a really hard industry to stay afloat. I've been lucky to kind of, like I said before, cling on for a while. And now it's okay. But even so, like maybe in 5 years, you and I are having a conversation. I'm like, guess what? I'm clinging again. I'm clinging for my
It's like, but the trend change, things move. Like you kind of have to constantly be pivoting. You're constantly trying to figure out the market change. The 2010s, digital was the idea. Like people were just consuming on the phone. I was consuming on the phone. I read digitally for most of 2010s to the 2020s. And then we started to hear 2020, 2021, 2022, where people were like, I need trophy books. That's where all the books now look so pretty. There's a reason the books are.
Yeah. Which makes my heart very happy because, oh my gosh, look at that. But also like now books as consumption, not as reading material. And so there's a whole conversation to be had there. And I'm happy for either. If you're happy and books make you happy, by all means, do what you want. That's great. But there's conversations that we were not having years ago, for sure. We're definitely not 15
it's not
years
normal that you go to Target and you're like, I have to get this special edition, or that Walmart is doing special editions, that we no longer have mass market paperbacks. That's
I know. And it makes me so sad because there was nothing like big chunky book that maybe wasn't as long as it looked because it was just small. So it had smaller pages. And like you could literally keep it in your pocket if you wanted to. Like it would fit. And it was
but
just
even
like
our YA, because we're contemporary, our YAs were like this tiny sweet volume, this tiny little books that came every month.
What were they? Maybe 200 pages?
Every month
maybe?
we get a new installment of our latest series. And
I was in the Scholastic Book Fair subscription service where I would get a package of Babysitters Club books every month and I would get a package of Sweet Valley High books every month. And I would get 3 at a time and I would like race through them because they were, like you said, super short. And then when it's coming again. And like, it was like you said, serial storytelling. Like I miss that. I miss it so much. And I miss it in TV too, because now we have, even though I love our show, I wish we had 22 episodes to really sink our teeth into the character. Take us back. Like, but they get locked in the mall and now they have to survive till the security guard comes back because there's no cell phones and they can't get in touch with anybody to come get them. Fascinating, fun story. Or the musical episode of Buffy. It's like, we're singing. Why? I don't know, but we're singing and it's great. Something I miss that so
nostalgia. All right, so let's talk some book recommendations. What type of books do you want to recommend our listeners to pick up?
So I have recommendations of stuff that basically feels like, because I love the genres that I write in and I really want people to start reading them for why I love them, which is I inherently love ambitious people getting love. So what does love look like for somebody who's got this very specific goal? So the first one I want to recommend, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, Tom Vellner's 30 Love, which just came out like a month or so ago, not even. And it is basically the rivalry of Make It Tennis. It is so good. It is so, so good. It is It's take challengers and heated rivalry and just stick it on a tennis court where you have like this. And it's a very mature romance. It's about a 30-year-old, which like I know to people in our 40s, we're like, oh, baby. But like
Yeah.
a 30-year-old is like hoping to find the person they're going to spend the rest of their life with. They're not 20 and 25 and trying to be like, just figure out love. They're like, I want true love. I want the relationship, the love of my life. And it's so well done. And it makes me so happy to see like a diverse story there where it's okay, here's these two men who are fighting it out on the court, but also they
We're having some sexy time.
but also there's feelings. Exactly. Some sexy time and some feelings. So I love that one. And then there's another male tennis romance coming out a little bit later. And I want to call it The Open Era by Edward. You can tell I'm from New York. I said era. The Open Era by Edward Schmit, which comes out very soon. I think right around maybe the same day as Wildcard. I want to say June, probably, if I'm not mistaken. Also, very similar plotline. I haven't read it yet. I've heard wonderful things from people I trust. So 10 out of 10 recommend. The other one I want to recommend, I actually just finished it. It's not out yet. It comes out in 2027. It's called The Fast Track by Angelica Chang. It is an YA F1 romance. And I know nothing about F1. Like, I am a sporty girl, obviously. This is what I do. But there are some very specific sports that I just have never followed. And F1 is one of them. And I was like, that seems boring. Like, it's a race and they win or not. Like, it did not tickle anything in my brain. And then I read this because she reached out for a blurb. And I was like, I don't really blurb a lot, but this sounds really fascinating. Like, let me see. So good. It was so good. An ambitious girl who is in the same world as her ambitious love interest. And what is that? And they're direct competitors, which doesn't really happen a lot in gendered sport where you're directly competing against a man or you're a girl competing against a boy. Doesn't happen a ton. Should happen more. Girls can definitely hold their own, especially in a sport like F1, where it's not really about physical ability. It's about your noggin and your grit. And yeah, so good. So well done. And then shifting a little bit from the sports angle, I do have to recommend another one that's not out yet, but it's out soon. It's called The Someday Garden, Ashley Poston. Ash is one of my best writer friends. We're closer now. I've known her almost since the beginning of my career when she was a book blogger and she did the cover reveal for the original Game Set Match release. And one of my favorite books growing up was The Secret Garden. It was the first time I read a book where I realized the main character could be a little bit bitchy and a little bit tough and a little bit not everyone's cup of tea. And it was okay. And you could still love her and you could still like her. And this book has Secret Garden vibes in that very distinct Ash Poston way. So when The Someday Garden comes out, I'm sure my rec is not going to be the thing that makes it a hit. It is going to be a huge hit, and I'm so excited for it. But everyone, please read it because it's so good. I got to read it. It's just, oh
my gosh. I am actually looking forward to Ashley's book. That's one thing that I love her books. I love
her writing.
It's so
is just
beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful and sweet, and you're just rooting so hard for them the whole time. And like she'll make you laugh, and then 5 seconds later you're crying, and you're like, why?
Yes. And
It's
honestly, my family's obsessed with Formula One enough that I had to pay an annual membership to Apple TV because that's where they're streaming them.
Oh my gosh. That's where they shoot. That's where they air. Yeah.
They've been obsessed. They wake up in the middle of the night to watch the race. And it's like it's all this intrigue and everything. I think there's a Netflix show that follows this season.
There is. I will never forget. I was actually out to lunch with another author friend, Sasha Lawrence. And I was like, why do all of my non-sporty friends suddenly care about F1? And she was like, didn't you see the Netflix documentary? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And she's like, so all of the non-sporty girls got introduced to this sport through a Netflix documentary where the only thing they really talked about was all the drama between the drivers. And I was like,
yes, it's like Gossip Girl too.
It's Gossip Girl, but with engines. And I'm like, that's amazing. Yeah. I'm in. Like, but I follow so many sports. I don't have time. Somebody recently, actually, funnily enough, it was Madeline Keyes from Finding Her Edge, who plays Adriana. She was like, why don't you watch women's hockey? And I was like, because she's like, I feel like you would love
another
it.
option. Like, women's sports, just a wave that.
Yeah. Women's sports, exactly. And I'm like, you're not wrong. You're right. I would love it. I love to watch hockey live. New York has a team. They're actually really good. And I go, but I'm already following 8 sports. My calendar is full, friends. I'm like, I'm going to have to drop something in order to pick something else up. And I don't know what to drop. I've been a sports fan for 40 years. It was osmosis in my house growing up. It's nothing I can do. It's too late for me. Save yourselves. But yeah, it's just so wonderful to see all of these, like what used to be considered niche sport find a market now because we have so many different ways of finding
Yeah.
stuff. We have Apple TV. Like you don't have to get a big network to sign on to air your sport. There's a streamer that's happy to do it. And all of the fans of that sport migrate to that streamer. Like you said, you had to get a subscription. So makes sense.
Yeah. So I love this conversation, Jennifer. I want to keep talking to you.
Me too. We had such a good chat.
And I love this, like really bringing the moment of tennis is having its moment, at least in romance. And I love this for us to keep us fed and happy. Because sometimes it's like a little, I don't care for football. I'm not a football person, but I like these niche sports. I like this idea of like other sports where the athletic mindset happens and at the same time, the challenges of life and actually training.
Of life. Yeah. These people have a real life. And what does that look like? It's a job. Ultimately, is it very potentially highly rewarding? Yes. Is it not something everyone can do? Also, yes. But at the end of the day, that's their 9 to 5. They're showing up to put in the work the same way we do.
Yeah. I'm glad that you persisted through the Olympics.
Thank you. Through our canceled Olympics and our closing publishers and nobody reading my books for a decade and a half. And here we are. And I'm so excited to be here, friends.
So Jennifer, tell us where we can find you online.
So you can find me at www.JenniferIacopelli. I will spell that for you. IACOPELLI.com. That is my website. And I am at Jennifer Carolyn, spelled traditional ways, everywhere else. I'm there on TikTok. I'm there on Instagram. I'm there on Threads, which is, I probably should spend less time on Threads, but I'm there. Right?
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer, for being on the show.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks for listening to the What to Read Next. For more book lists, cozy reads, and library tips, visit the whattoreadnextblog.com. Your next great read might be waiting there.